See, me as a Yankee fan, I could care less.
I think we got a heck of a shot of winning. We can beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
David Wells has pitched a perfect game. 27 up, 27 down. Baseball immortality for David Wells.
And it's hit deep to left center. Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza, and the Mets lead 3-2. Bates against Joseph. Bates in on goal. Defend Metro! And the Rangers have one more hell of a time, baby!
This is the Cross Island Sports Network, where iconic moments get iconic coverage.
You are listening to
the Cross Island Podcast. Action! Hosted by Lyle Gillen and Errol Marks.
Of the Cross Island Podcast. My name is Errol Marks, and my friend over there, my co-host, Mr. Lyle Gillian. Lyle, what's up, buddy?
Nothing much. Can't wait to have a great show tonight.
Oh, we're going to have a great one as the New York Yankees and the Mets are fighting for their lives throughout the playoffs in the divisional games. As the Mets right now, as we speak, are up 4-0 in the sixth inning. So the Mets look like they could pull away and take a good 2-1 lead over the Philadelphia Phillies. And the Yankees right now are heading to Kansas City for tomorrow's showdown with the Kansas City Royals as it's tied 1-1. The Yankees are very lucky it's tied 1-1 after the Jazz Chisholm stolen base in the first game. A lot of people think that he was out, but
he was.
It doesn't matter. The fact is that they won, and everybody thinks there's a conspiracy, which there could be. I mean, I've said this many, many times when it comes to professional sports that a lot of these games are rigged. And I think baseball right now wants to see the Yankees move forward, and I think baseball wants to see the Mets move forward.
I think at the end of the day, the Royals walked in, 2-3 runs? So, yeah, that Jazz Chisholm should have been out. 100%. He was out at second base. But that should never have been a winning run for them because they shouldn't have walked in multiple runs like that. And if they didn't do that, then we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So it goes back to them at the beginning anyway.
So we will get into the Yankees and the Royals series. We'll get into the Mets and Philadelphia series. We'll also get into the firing of Mr. Bambi Saleh as he's on his way out. And Mr. Olbrich is on his way in as the new head coach for the New York, or interim coach for the New York Jets moving forward. We'll also get into the finalization of the NHL season as we move forward with the Islanders and Rangers season around the corner, a week, not even a week away, a couple of days away for seasons begin. And by the way, Shesterkin has still not agreed to a contract with the New York Rangers as he was offered an $88 million contract, 8 years, $88 million contract, which would have made him the richest goaltender in the NHL. And he declined it. He believes he's worth more. And I believe the Rangers will offer him more money, which does that hurt the Rangers moving forward with free agency? It absolutely does. So does this benefit the Rangers now that Shesterkin has taken decided to take a decline on this new contract, which is very interesting. So we will get into that as well. Let's get into the Robert Saleh story. I will get into it tomorrow with the loudmouth. You know, it's so interesting because over the last couple of weeks, and really the last year, I have been saying that Robert Saleh should have been fired a long time ago. This is an organization right now that has been craving good coaching. It hasn't had it over, I would say 30 years since Bill Parcells. I mean, Rex Ryan was a decent coach.
I think
Rex did okay. I think Rex did okay. I think he created a clown organization, a circus over there. It didn't really help the Jets out, especially when he left after his 5-year stint, which is the longest stint we've seen a Jets coach have.
I think if he was the coach of this team, they would be 4-1 right now.
I think right now, where you look at this team and this organization, they're craving a championship. And when they brought Aaron Rodgers here to the organization, when they made that trade, it was championship or bust. Aaron Rodgers went down in 4 plays last year at MetLife on a Monday Night Football game against the Buffalo Bills. They did wind up winning in overtime, but it cost the Jets the season. And then coming into the season this year, there was a lot of hope that this team was going to have a successful season. I believe the Jets were going to win 12 games this year, possibly 13. Well, they just didn't start off strong. They went into these droughts of running the ball over the last couple of weeks. They can't run the ball with Brees. They can't run the ball with Braylon Allen. A lot of people think that this offensive line looks old. I disagree because there's 3 young players on this line, and I think that the problem was the coaching. And I have been saying this for the last 2 weeks. And I know a lot of Jet fans were so excited after watching the Jets play the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football. Like, now we're going to start to pick up the game. Aaron looks like the old Aaron Rodgers. And then you hit a bump. And you hit a bump with the Broncos. You lose 10-9 against a Broncos team that's playing pretty good football because they won this past week as well. But they're not a good team. The Jets are a better team. It was raining. It was disgusting out. There's no excuses. These are multi-million-dollar players. The Jets are one of the more talented rosters right now in the NFL. And they laid out a lousy goose egg. And then going to London, started off really slow, going down 17-0 against Sam Darnold, making the mistakes that they made, couldn't run the ball. The defense was making careless mistakes in the secondary with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. And falling down 17-7.5. And then going into the second half, Aaron Rodgers picked up the game. The Jets started playing even more, started using some different packages defensively and started to stop everything. And then obviously Jones went down. It definitely benefited the New York Jets when Aaron Jones went down because they didn't have much of a running game after that. Mm-hmm. And Minnesota, all they needed was 6 points. They kicked 2 field goals, and it was enough to beat the New York Jets. The Jets did come back. So if you want to brag about that, there really is nothing to brag about the New York Jets. And then after the game, I believe what cost Robert Saleh his job was his press conference. It just seemed like he was a deer in the headlights. I've been saying, why do I call him Bambi? Is I believe he's a deer in the headlights. He had no explanation on why they couldn't run the ball. He had no explanation on not stopping or having problems over the last couple of weeks, stopping teams on third downs. Just excuse after excuse after excuse. And it looked like Aaron Rodgers was not very happy at the end of the game. Even at the press conference, he wasn't really eager to talk to the press. And it looked like he just wanted to get on the plane and get the hell out of England. And the story came out this morning that when, Robert Saleh got to the practice, facilities. He walked in. Woody Johnson showed up to his office, shut the door, and within 5 minutes, when he walked out, he was fired. Then there were stories coming out that Robert Saleh was surprised. He was shocked. He was just absolutely, completely out of sight with the situation. When he heard that Woody Johnson came in and fired him because he believed that he deserved an opportunity to get this team back on track. But I think Woody Johnson's seen enough. I think the organization has seen enough with Robert Saleh being that he's probably, statistics would tell you that he's the 4th worst coach in NFL history in a 3.5 season stint for an NFL team with a 20 and 37 record. He has been absolutely putrid for the New York Jets. I just think that he just has no understanding on how to run an offense. And this team just has not played under him very, very well in the last, I would say, from last year, from the second half of last year, even though they started playing okay, it just seemed like this team started to not believe in this coaching staff. And after the Jets knocked off New England, and then went to MetLife, lost against the Broncos, and then lost against Minnesota. I think Woody Johnson was just absolutely done with this coaching staff, and now you're seeing Ulbrich get his opportunity as a head coach. We'll see what he can do with this roster. I think there's a lot to expect from this roster. CJ Mosley could be back this coming week against the Buffalo Bills. I think that this team has been a lot more faster in the front seven, especially with Sherwood. We'll see when CJ Mosley comes back how he works into this defense. I think the problem right now with the New York Jets and the main concern is the running game. They have not had a running game in the last 3 weeks. This past week against Minnesota, they had 50 yards. The week before that, all scrimmage yards for Breece Hall was 9. I mean, they need to find a way to not become one-dimensional, and that's been the problem on the offensive side of the ball. If they could figure that out, maybe Jeff Ulbrich will decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to play 2 running backs. I wanted to see that. Braylon Allen is definitely a competent running back, and so is Breece Hall. Have 2 guys, in certain plays, in certain, sets. Maybe have 2 running backs out there, one that can actually block for the other, or maybe use 1 running back in the offensive wide receiving side of the ball where you could put him in the slot and use him in many different, packages. I just think there was a lot of blah with Robert Saleh. And I think Robert Saleh has a lot to be blamed for, and everybody keeps blaming Nathaniel Hackett. But guess what? Robert Saleh came out before the season started and said that Nathaniel Hackett has to go through him before the play is going to be called. So to me, Robert Saleh has everything, and he has, as far as I'm concerned, you should blame Robert Saleh for the play calling because he's the last person that is supposed to be calling the plays, for this team. So I think if you're a Jet fan, I think that you have to think that Woody Johnson is wants to save this season and try to give this, and Joe Douglas wants to save this season and try to give this team a chance to make the playoffs and make a run. I don't think the Jets are done. I do believe that if Nathaniel Hackett does not win this week, he could be fired. And Davante Adams, to me, after Derek Carr going down this past week, and he could be out for a couple of weeks, it looks like the Saints are out of the hunt for Davante Adams. It looks like the Jets are the lone team that looks like is going to land Davante Adams. He already came out and said that it's the Saints or the Jets. Supposedly, that's what we've heard, that he only wants to play for the Jets and the Saints. And now that Derek Carr could be out to 2 to 3 weeks, I don't see the Saints going after Davante Adams. So it looks like the Jets are going to close in with Davante Adams, so it's a good sign for that. We'll see if this offense can figure it out.
Well, you mentioned that Saleh got fired the first 5 minutes of walking in the building. Now, it was reported that the first thing Saleh did was he came in and he told Hackett that he's taking away his play calling and giving it to Todd Dowling. Then he got fired. So I'm very interested if Albright keeps that or takes it away. I think that's going to be something that stays. I think they're going to keep that play calling away from Hackett. But, I want to point out something, and Craig Horton said it earlier today on Twitter. Now, if Greg DeLay doesn't miss that field goal against Denver, and if Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw the pick, Saleh stays the head coach and they're 4-1. So you want to sit here and look at it. Did Aaron Rodgers complain and get him fired? Because both of those losses, you can say they lost the game not because of him. They lost the game against Denver because of Greg the leg. Then they lost the game because Aaron Rodgers, first off, he threw a pick six. That's not on Saleh. Then he threw another pick to end the game. So you really want to look at it. He didn't lose us those 2 games. The team did. So
the coach, the coach is always going to be pointed at.
100%. I agree. I'm just spinning it around and saying.
No, I got what you're saying. I just think
that it couldn't be 4-1 right now if players executed.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. I mean, the Bengals could be 4-0 right now. I mean, I'm sorry, 4-1 right now as well. I mean, the Bengals had a chance to win every single one of those games. And obviously, just bad play calling in the second half, in the fourth quarter, and mistakes that the Bengals made defensively is why they're 1-4 right now. I can go through so many different teams right now and where they're positioned and why they're positioned there. Football, when it comes to football, it's really one or two plays that can cost you a game. Most of these teams are very close and bunched together. Even New England, as much as everybody thinks they're the worst team right now in the NFL, or even Carolina, they're all very close to as far as talent is concerned. The Jets are more talented than a lot of these teams, and that's why they were expected to have a better record. The fact right now is somebody's got to take the fall, and it was Robert Saleh. And maybe it is Aaron Rodgers that got him fired. But guess what? Robert Saleh was the one that wanted Aaron Rodgers there. And Aaron Rodgers right now, as far as I'm concerned, is the coach of this team. He is the leader of this team, and the players are going to follow him all the way to the end. Now, Aaron Rodgers is going to get what he wants. He's running this squad. He's the guy. He's the front guy, and he's probably going to get Devontae Adams now. So he's going to get everything and his ducks in a row. And now we're going to see if this team is actually going to play up to par. I do believe that something was holding this offense back. Now, what? I don't know. I don't know what it is. And I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett being told, I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett being told, like you said, that he was going to lose his play calling, his play calling, and he was giving it to somebody else, is why Aaron Rodgers probably went to Woody Johnson, because maybe Nathaniel Hackett went to Aaron Rodgers and told him he's losing his play calling privileges.
Well, the report was that he fired him, or he took that play calling away first thing in the morning, and then he immediately got fired. So there wouldn't have been time for him to go for Hackett to go tell Rodgers for him to go to Woody, if the report is accurate in how it happened.
I just think right now, if you're a Jet fan, they have a chance right now in the AFC East. They're going to be playing Buffalo in MetLife on Monday Night Football. Buffalo's on a 2-game losing streak. So are the Jets. Whoever wins this game takes sole custody of first place. Buffalo right now, and say whatever you want, they're 3-2. The Jets are 2-3. If Buffalo wins, they take full control of the AFC East. If they lose, the Jets have a 3-3 record like Buffalo, but the Jets will have they're 2-0 against divisional teams, and Buffalo will be 1-1 because they lost against the Jets. So the Jets automatically take full custody of that first place position. So this was Woody Johnson's lookout on this, and he probably sat down with Joe Douglas before Sunday. They probably spoke on the phone and they had a conversation about this. And Joe Douglas knows that he is on the hot seat. Joe Douglas knows that if they don't get into the playoffs this year, Woody's firing him, and he knew that Robert Saleh was going to go no matter what anyways. And this
I do find it very odd, though, that it was Woody who fired him, not Joe Douglas. So that does tell me that Woody kind of doesn't trust what's happening, or feels like he needs to step in and is now coming in and inserting himself in that position.
Or maybe,
hey, you guys step it up, or you're fired and I'm taking back over, like how it used to be before he went over to join Trump's administration and work as the UK ambassador. So I think that, because he used to be way more involved in the team, he's not as involved anymore. So I look at it as this is him saying he's stepping in, he's stepping over you, reminding them who's in charge, and to put his foot forward, because I feel like normally it would be Douglas who would have done the firing.
How do you know that Douglas told him that, or maybe Woody knows that Douglas and Saleh are very close, and Woody said, you know what, I'm going to handle this myself. Maybe he went and he told Douglas, I'm going to handle this.
I don't know that. I'm just looking at the situation, and that's how I'm reading it. But that listen, that could have also happened. I'm not saying it didn't, but I'm just looking at the situation, and that's how I read it. That I find it odd that Woody did it.
I don't find it odd. I think Woody wants everybody to know that he is in control, and he is the man. He is the alpha over there at that facility, and he is the owner of that organization. And he wants the fans, and very, very well after that loss, the fans were taking shots at the Jets that their lack of offense and their lack of teamwork and dedication has been a big problem for this team. This team should be 4-1. Some people think they should be 5-0 with the talent that they have on the roster because of some injuries and obviously certain positions not being filled the way they thought it was going to be filled going into the offseason and adding some pieces to the puzzle. It hasn't worked out for the New York Jets. Now, I do believe that the Jets still have a chance right now to win the AFC East. I do believe that Woody Johnson sees and believes that their schedule is going to get easier in the second half. After their bye week, they still have to play Miami twice. Miami doesn't have Tua. And Tua might not be back for the rest of the year. They still have to play New England again. They have other teams that are not having good seasons where the Jets are going to have the opportunity to run through them. Their schedule has been fairly easy too. They should have beaten the Broncos. They lose against the Broncos. Yeah. Minnesota wasn't expected to be good this year. They're playing better football. Darnold looks like he's having a breakout season as a starting quarterback. And I think nobody expected Minnesota to be as good as they are defensively. Brian Flores has really got that team playing right now.
He's a great coach. He'll get a head coaching job again soon.
Oh, no question. He'll have a head coaching job next year. So I just think
the Jets.
No, Jets aren't bringing a defensive coordinator. I think it's if Ulbrich doesn't win the job. Now, if the Jets make the playoffs and make a run, Ulbrich could get the job. His interim position could be the head coaching job. But if this team sneaks into the playoffs or barely makes the playoffs, I think Ulbrich is off. He's off to the bunches or whatever, off to the woods or whatever the hell he's going to go. I think they're going to be looking at Ben Johnson. I think they're going to look at Kingsbury. They're going to look at those kind of guys to fill in. They were very interested in Kingsbury a couple of years ago before he took the Arizona job. Look what he's doing with Jaden Daniels. So maybe bringing him in to help out with Travis. Travis is a young quarterback.
I don't know how long Rodgers still wants to play, but I don't think
he said he wants to play till he's 45.
But at the end of the year, he could be like, "Yo, you know what? I can't do this. I'm done."
If they get Devontae Adams, I think he'll play another year.
Probably, but
they're giving up. They're going to give up a top draft pick.
Listen, I have a conspiracy. I think he was set to go to the Saints today because the rumor was that the trade was going to, or the reports were that the trade was going to come in today, and it didn't. So I think they were waiting for after the Saints to play Monday Night Football to push the trade through. And then Derek Carr got injured, and then Adam said, "I don't want to go there anymore." So then now he's holding. That's my theory. Personally, just me. It could be a little conspiracy theory, but I don't know. I think that he was set to go to the Saints.
Now he's not going to the Saints. So where is he heading? He's probably going to the Jets. It seems.
But they're probably gonna have to work out a few more things to make that work.
More than likely, that's probably where he is heading. And maybe knowing that, Woody Johnson wanted Robert Saleh out of there before they were going to make a trade like that. Now, they still have to figure out what they're going to do with Hassan Reddick. Now, and if they do make a trade for Devontae Adams has got to be willing to take less money because they still have to figure out, even if Hassan Reddick comes back before week 8, which he's going to have to, where he'll be back there next year, in the same predicament he is in right now. So he probably will. So the Jets are going to have to wiggle some of this money so they can obviously make the trade for Devontae Adams and get him on the roster and then bring Hassan Reddick in. I mean, that could be a huge splash, for as far as I'm concerned for the New York Jets. They land Devontae Adams and bring Hassan Reddick from the scrap heats. I mean, the Jets get 2 Pro Bowl players, 2 All-Pro players at their position. So I mean that could really change everybody's thought with the New York Jets right now. But it's all about coaching. The players need to believe in Ulbrich. If Ulbrich runs this offense a completely different way, if he starts to use Breece Hall and Allen in the backfield together, I think that's what a lot of people have been complaining about, is the fact that
I don't like how they haven't really used Mike Williams very much. I think that they should be utilizing him more. I don't know if maybe his knee isn't as healed as, or he isn't as ready to run on that knee as was reported, because it was reported that he was 100% and fine. But you know what? Maybe it's not 100% and he's good enough to play, and he doesn't want to say, oh, he can't play, because then he's only on a 1-year contract. So,
I don't think it has anything to do with his knee. I think he's 100% healthy. I don't even think it's really. Remember, he came at he didn't have OTAs. He came before the preseason, so he really didn't work out with Aaron Rodgers and all the other wide receivers. So he's right now tailing behind everybody. I think, obviously, if they trade for Devontae Adams, they're going to have to move Mike Williams. They're going to have to. Mike Williams is going to have to be a part of that trade, because they're going to have wiggle room, because Mike Williams is making $11 million. They got to take that $11 million and put it into Devontae Adams. So
what I think is going to I think the biggest issue with the Jets offense, from looking at it, is it feels like nobody's on the same page. It feels like the receivers aren't on the same page as Aaron Rodgers, and it feels like everything is just they're trying to do what they think is going to happen, and Aaron wants them to do another thing, and they all aren't there. And I think there's been multiple instances of that happening, where one of the interceptions that Aaron threw, where he wanted to throw back shoulder, and I think it was Mike Williams, he didn't turn around. Another one was similar to that. I think it's just what Rodgers wants them to do. They don't know that he wants to do that. So I think it's not only a maybe play calling issue, it's just a chemistry issue that will get worked out, but it has to get worked out soon.
It has something to do with film. It has something to do with the play calling and knowing what to do. These guys are practicing on the practice field all week long and not knowing how to run a route. That has something to do with coaching.
No, I'm not saying they don't know how to run a route. I'm saying that
they're not running the routes. I mean, I've said that on the Sports Loudmouth. My whole take with the Jets in week 5 was nobody knew how to run a route. I mean, Garrett Wilson, he had his best game with Aaron Rodgers, but he had the ball thrown to him 22 times. Who wouldn't have a great game if the ball was being thrown to him 22 times?
See, that's a big problem with me. It felt like they were forcing the ball to him, and I feel like if you saw that the first few weeks where they were targeting Lazard, like it felt like Aaron Rodgers only felt comfortable with Lazard, and then you look back and now it feels like either he trusted nobody except Wilson, or he wanted to force having chemistry with Wilson, so he was purposely going out of his way to throw the ball to him and get on the same page as him.
The most important thing right now for the New York Jets is to figure out what's going on with this running game. This team was supposed to be one of the best running teams in the NFL. Breece Hall was supposed to be a top 3 in fantasy. Allen looked like a world beater in his first 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, they started implementing him more into the offense, but not using him for his strengths. I mean, 1st and goal on the 1-yard line, what do? You give it to the power back. You don't give it to Breece Hall. You give it to the power back that's going to beat it in and beat it in and beat it in until it goes in. If they score over there in that touchdown against the Broncos, they win the game. Mm-hmm. So I just think it was bad play calling. That was Robert Saleh. He is the head coach. He should have said, you know what? Put Allen there. Get Allen in there and let Allen beat it in. Let it beat it in. And they didn't punch it in with Allen. I think there was a lot of miscalculating on who and what players should be implemented in that style of offense in that certain particular position of the game. So I think that has to do with coaching. So
do you think egos is getting in their way?
I'm sorry?
Between the backs, do you think egos is getting in their way?
I think Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh were not getting along. I think there was.
I think that's very true, also. But you remember when they were rumored to signing. I forget what back it was. Not last year, the year before last year, before they went to Cook. They Breece Hall made a comment on Twitter, pretty much, very much hinting at him not being happy they were going for another back. So I think that he might be a little bit of having an ego problem. Now, I'm just assuming here. I have no.
Allen is the youngest player in the league. He knew that they needed another back.
But you'll look at him. When this contract is up, Brees could have to go somewhere else. If he doesn't want to go somewhere, he's like, hey, I want to establish myself as the guy. I want to be in these positions. How do you know he didn't go to the coach and say, hey, I want to be there. I want to get those punch-ins like that. I don't want him getting it. He could have put his ego in positions in order to make himself stay the number one.
I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think right now it's coaching. It doesn't matter if they have an ego. If the coach goes in there or Aaron Rodgers goes in there and gets Allen, give me Allen. Aaron Rodgers makes the final decision making. And I think that Saleh was getting in the way of it. Because I really believe that at certain aspects of the game and certain positions, when it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, I really believe Aaron Rodgers wanted Allen in the game, not Brees Hall. And Saleh wanted Brees. And I think that there was some kind of scrum with that. And there's a lot of other things that I think him and Aaron Rodgers were not seeing eye to eye, even with the New England game. And when I pointed out in the first quarter when they scored that touchdown and he went to hug Aaron Rodgers, you could see that Aaron Rodgers had no interest in hugging him or being anywhere.
Yeah, Aaron said in the post game, if it's true or not, I don't know. He said he just doesn't like hugging, which, hey, some people are like that. And then when you have somebody who you really,
that's a bunch of bull because I see him do it with Allen. I see him to do it with Nathaniel Hackett all the time. That's a bunch of crap.
It could be. It very well
it's a bunch of crap. And Aaron Rodgers needs to stop this crap. And by the way, his ego needs to go away. He needs to put his ego away. Put it in his locker and don't come out with it again.
I think he needs to show remember when he was with Green Bay and he was like really in the prime of his career, you saw the fiery emotion that he had. That doesn't seem to be there anymore.
I think he had a lot of fire against Minnesota, especially in a sideline.
Against Minnesota, you saw it a bit, but it feels like the first few weeks he didn't have that. I'm going to kill you if you don't do what I want you to do. That fire inside of him, where like receivers might be afraid to not do, because we used to hear about it all the time in like training camp and stuff, and how he would treat his other receivers, and like especially rookies. I think that that's something that's missing, where he isn't holding them as accountable for making them mess up.
I think he is. And I think the problem is, I don't know if these players are handling it. I don't think they're handling it right. I think Garrett Wilson, he was the one that wanted Aaron Rodgers there. Brees Hall wanted Aaron Rodgers there. Sauce Gardner. I've seen Aaron Rodgers go to Sauce Gardner when he made that terrible penalty. When he put his hands after 5 yards on, I forget what wide receiver, but which cost them a first down and put them in scoring position. After that, I saw Aaron Rodgers after that play when they kicked the field goal. Aaron Rodgers went to Sauce Gardner and he was talking to him. So I think the problem right now is that all of them are not on the same page. The coaching staff and the players are not on the same page. And I think Woody Johnson saw that and he couldn't take it anymore and he had to make a move. And I think that was his decision. It was him and Joe Douglas's decision. I think he went down and he's the one who made the call at the end because he believes that he didn't want Joe Douglas, because of his connection, his relationship with Robert Saleh, to make that final call. I think Woody Johnson decided to do that, being that he's the owner and that he wanted to stir things up. So that's what I think. How about the Giants, man? I mean, Daniel Jones has played fantastic. The last 3 weeks, say whatever you want, Daniel Jones has been as good as we've seen Daniel Jones been since he's been injured. I mean, he's been fantastic. The team is starting to play under Dable, and they're starting to win games they're not expected to win. They're 2-3 right now. They're fighting for that wild card spot. It's still very, very early, but their schedule is going to get easier soon. And the Giants could go on a 3 or 4 game winning streak when the schedule gets easier. And
if their defense continues to play really well, I think they can.
What worries me is the lack of talent around him. Daniel Jones, the offensive line's playing better, but the lack of talent around him. I mean, Neighbors is hurt right now. Who are they going to trust? There's just Darius Slayton. Are they going to trust him? Robinson? There's nobody that I can. And I like the young kid, the young running back in Tracy. He played very well on Sunday, but I'm not going to expect that every single week from Tracy. Singletary's been, he's going to be out for probably another week or two with his injury. So I mean, they're fighting a lot of injuries, and they have a lack of talent offensively, and they're putting a lot on Daniel Jones's legs. And I don't want to see Daniel Jones get hurt. Daniel Jones just played well the last 3 weeks. If you look at his numbers, he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks right now in the league, and you can win with Daniel Jones. I know you don't like Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. I do. I think Daniel Jones is capable of winning games, and if their defense is playing the way it is, and they can get subpar offense from this offense and put up 17, 18 points, they can win. And I think the Giants, especially in the NFC, because the NFC, as good as the records look right now, the NFC North, everybody's over 500. The NFC East right now, except the Giants, everybody's over 500. I mean, every single division besides, I would say, the Carolina division is the South is pretty good. So I do think right now, where you sit in a position right now, I think the Giants could sneak into the playoffs if they keep playing the way they are. And it has a lot to do with Dable and figuring out how to coach this team and not be such a dictator the way he has been over the last year. And Daniel Jones' development. I think he is starting to develop right in front of our eyes. And if he continues to develop the way he is, and he's consistent the way he is, not throwing interceptions, not fumbling the ball the last 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, he hasn't thrown one interception. He's been pretty consistent. And as long as he's consistent and not making mistakes and putting himself in harm's way, I think the Giants have a chance to win every single week.
I think that, like I said earlier at the beginning of the season, the difference maker for the team is going to be their defense. And their defense has been amazing. It's been great. I've been a fan of it. But I think Daniel Jones has to be too perfect in order for them to win. And he has been as close to that as possible the last couple of weeks. But I think that if he can keep it up, they'll be fine. They'll be in every game.
I think he can. And I think right now, Neighbors needs to get back. I think the Giants need to make a trade at the trade deadline or look on the waiver heat, try to bring in another offensive weapon to help out on that second tier wide receiver, which I still don't believe they have. Darius Slayton played very well on Sunday, but I don't know. I don't think he's a second wide receiver. He's not a number two. He might be a number three, but he's not a number two. I think they need to look at the trade deadline to land maybe another wide receiver, a guy that maybe could help develop Malik Neighbors. Right now, Malik Neighbors, with these LSU wide receivers, they've been known to get hurt. So, I mean, Odell Beckham, Jefferson, really for the
Odell Beckham played many years before that happened. So
no, Odell Beckham, when he came into the league, he got hurt his rookie season.
I don't remember that.
He didn't play the first 4 games because he had hamstring problems. Yeah. Odell Beckham started the season.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
So, and Jefferson, he hasn't been hurt for like the first 3 years. And now the last 2 seasons, he's been fighting injuries. So I'm not big injuries, but it's just Jamar Chase is another guy that's been fighting injuries for the last couple of weeks, last couple of years. I'm sorry. So, I mean, these wide receivers that come out of LSU because they're fast and they're athletic, they have these hamstring, knee, and ankle problems. Now, and I do believe there's so many injuries this year because of the turf. And I think the NFL really needs to dig deep in the offseason to figure out on how to fix this. The turf is not helping.
I think that the big stadiums in America are going to be changing to grass. You have the World Cup coming in a couple of years, and they're not going to let them play on this crappy turf. It's not good enough. They're not going to allow that. I would be extremely shocked if they played on turf. So I think MetLife will change to grass. I think that all these stadiums that World Cup will be playing at, every single one of them will be changing to grass, if they don't have it already. But I would be utterly shocked if MetLife stayed as this turf.
I think that the Giants have a very good chance. I think the NFC is wide open. There will be teams at the end of the season fighting for those wild card spots, and I think the Giants could be in the mix, especially when, in the middle of the season, their schedule gets not easy, but fairly easy, where they could start to win a couple of games here and there. And right now they have 2 wins. So if they could get to that 8 or 9 number, I think the Giants could sneak into the playoffs. And watch out. The defense plays well. If Daniel Jones is a competent quarterback all season long and continues to develop as a franchise quarterback, I think Daniel Jones took it upon himself to take over for this team and be a leader on this team ever since the first 2 weeks of the season. And Joe Shane really not trusting him and looking to move up in the draft really pissed Daniel Jones off. And I think now that Daniel Jones is fully healthy, he wants to show his ability. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The Giants are starting to believe in Daniel Jones and believe that they have a quarterback that they can trust and win games. And by the way, he's an underpaid starting quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback in almost every single statistic right now. And guess what? He's making $40 million. $40 million. Trevor Lawrence right now is making 55. Joe Burrow is making 55 million. If you go up and down those rosters, Kirk Cousins is making 50 million. All these quarterbacks, all these starting quarterbacks are making more money than Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones has better numbers right now than Patrick Mahomes. So I think that you look at the position that the Giants are, they're in a very good position with Daniel Jones. And they moving forward for at least the next 2 seasons, they have a competent quarterback. And as long as he's competent and a good contract, the Giants can make moves. They can add pieces around him where they can start to win offensively on the offensive side of the ball, not just the defensive side of the ball. So I like what I see with the Giants. I like more what I see with the Giants than the Jets. By the way, the Jets have a ton of talent, more talent than the Giants could even imagine. And the Giants right now have the same record as the Jets and has played better talent and more talented teams than the Jets. So that tells me the Jets have to pick up their game, and I think Woody Johnson sees that. Woody Johnson sees the Giants right now 2-3, and they don't have anywhere close to the talent the Jets have, defensively and offensively, and the Jets have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. Mm-hmm. Even their running game, Tracy and Singletary is nowhere close to Breece Hall and Allen. And they're winning games, and their running game has been sensational. For last 3 weeks, the Giants have, from their running backs, every one of their running backs, and Singletary as the number one has had over 100 yards when he has played in the last 3 weeks. And now Tracy this week had 120 something yards, him playing this week. So they're getting a running game. And as long as they're finding seams and they're running the ball very well, it's opening up the field for the wide receivers, even though they don't have game-changing wide receivers besides Malik Neighbors. So it's been very impressive for the New York Giants. Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to go over and change the subject to the Mets.
Yeah, I was going to go there too.
Okay. Well, the New York Mets, they're in Game 3 currently, and they are up 6-0 in the top of the 8th. I think that, think about the divisional series. It's only 5 games. And when you're up 2-1, a 1 win away, you're also only 2 games away from losing that series. So it's happened many, many times in baseball when you're up 2-1 and the other team comes back and wins in 5. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I think the Mets are playing great baseball. I think they are currently probably the hottest team in baseball.
Padres.
Yeah, them too.
It would be the Padres.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. But I think the Mets are playing great, and I don't expect them to blow this, but I think Met fans should not get overly excited yet until they end up winning.
I think the Mets fans should be overly excited, and I'm going to tell you why.
Sure, go for it.
The Philadelphia Phillies, in their 100 years of playing baseball as an organization, in the playoffs, if they lose the first game, they never win the series. They have never won a series losing the first game of the series. So for anybody to not know this, or you do know this, the Mets are right now in the driver's seat. And I think that
I think they are too. I'm just saying, it's only 2 games. And
I know, but I think
if they win game 4, then they go home and go to they're at home for game 5. And
this isn't surprising.
And one game like that, anything can happen.
This isn't surprising. Baseball is a very weird sport. It's the most unpredictable sport out of all the sports. And it's the hardest championship to win. I don't care what anybody says with the hardest championship to win is the World Series. I'm telling you. I'm going to tell you why. Because there's no in the Stanley Cup, you know what teams are good. You know what teams are going to challenge for it. You don't know who's going to challenge for the baseball championship. You don't. And last year in the World Series, you had the Rangers and Arizona. Both teams didn't make the playoffs this year. Now this year, you have the Mets, the surprise, the Kansas City Royals. I mean, who's the doubt that the Kansas City Royals aren't playing the Mets in the World Series again, like 2015, 2016? Why wouldn't that happen? I mean, baseball's unpredictable. All you need is a team to get hot and go into the playoffs and make a run. That's why I think that baseball is the hardest sport to predict and the hardest championship to win, because there's no guarantees. Even and we've seen this. Look at the Yankees. The Yankees were the best team in the American League all season long, and they're tied 1-1 against Kansas City. Okay, they're the better team. And I told everybody as a Yankee fan, the one team I do not want to play in the American League at any point of the playoffs is the Kansas City Royals. I'll play Detroit.
They should be up 2-0 right now.
I'll play Baltimore.
They should be up 2-0.
No, they shouldn't. Actually, they should be down 0-2.
No, they should have. They should have. How?
They should.
They completely dominated game 2, and game 1 they beat themselves. They should have won game 1.
No, I'm saying the Royals should be. The Yankees should be.
Oh yeah, I'm saying the Royals should be up 2-0.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the Yankees.
No, you said down 2-0.
No, I said that the Yankees should be down 0-2. That's what I said that the Yankees should be. I don't know. I'm talking about the Yankees. You go right to the Royals. What I'm saying what I'm saying right now is the Yankees should not. The Yankees shouldn't even be in this series. Now, Aaron Judge hasn't figured things out, and this has been Aaron Judge's background. He can't hit in the playoffs. So hopefully he figures it out in Kansas City. The Yankees are a better away team. The Yankees are the best away team in baseball throughout the season. So maybe them going to Kansas City, they'll figure things out, and maybe they end this series in Kansas City. They have to win game 3. They cannot go to game 4 down 2-1 and expect to come out of this as a winner. So I do think bringing in Clark Schmidt, I think they trust that Clark Schmidt is going to pitch well against Kansas City throughout the season. I think he's played Kansas City twice, and he's pitched very well against that roster. So Kansas City plays good fundamental baseball. That's what scares me about Kansas City. That has been the problem all season long against the teams that play good fundamental baseball. The Mets are a good fundamental baseball team. The Yankees lost 4 games against the Mets this year. Yep. If you go up and down the rosters and the teams that the Yankees have lost against, the Yankees have lost against good fundamental teams. So I think that was a bad matchup for the Yankees. That doesn't mean the Yankees can't win the series. I think the Yankees can win the series. And I wouldn't doubt that they will win the series. And if the Yankees win this series, the Yankees are going to go straight to the World Series, because it doesn't matter who they play, Detroit or Cleveland. They're going to beat any one of those teams. I think they're better than any one of those teams. The team that worried me going into the playoffs was the Kansas City Royals. So as far as the Mets are concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets go to the World Series. I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Listen, as a baseball fan, I would love to see a Subway Series again. I think it would be very, very, very entertaining, and I'd like to watch it.
I think that the Met fans think that because they won 4 games in a row against the Yankees, they're just going to go and wipe the Yankees out. I think the playoffs are completely different. Now, do I think the Mets are the better team right now? Yes, but the better roster is the Yankees. And by the way, this is the problem with the Mets, and I'll say this. The Mets were not expected to be here. If the Mets win or lose going to the World Series, everybody's going to be like, wow, they had a great season. Now they could spend money in the offseason. They could bring in Burns and Fried and maybe Soto. And we've seen this before with Uncle Stevie. This is Buck Showalter goes in his first year, makes a run in the playoffs, loses in the playoffs, and then they spend $500-600 million on contracts. with Marte and all these other guys, and they don't make the playoffs again. So, I mean, that's the problem. That's the position that the Mets are in right now. So we don't know, and there's no guarantees that the Mets, even with the moves that they could make in the offseason, that they're ever going to be here again. So if they have a chance to win a World Series this year, they got to do everything they can to win it. So, and I don't care if the Mets.
There's never a guarantee that you're going to be there again. You don't know what happens, so you should play every postseason as you're not going to be there again. You know, there are hockey players that in their rookie year got to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost, and then never went there again. You know, you can't take. You have to look at it as you're not going to be there again, so you can play your hardest. I'm
rooting for the Mets. I am. I'm a Yankee fan, and
I'm not a Yankee to watch.
And the Yankee fans are like, to me, a lot of my Yankee friends says, how, as a Yankee fan, how are you rooting for the Mets? I said, because win or lose, it doesn't make a difference as a Yankee fan. The Yankees have 27 World Series. The Mets have 2. Okay? What does it matter if the Mets win a World Series? It doesn't matter to me if the Mets win a World Series. Am I going to go out and buy a Mets hat? No. I'm not going to wear a Mets hat. I'm not going to wear a Mets jersey. I've been to Citi Field, and I like Citi Field. So I'm not rooting necessarily for the Mets to win a World Series, but if they win the World Series, I'm happy for them. Now, as far as the Yankees are concerned, I would love to see a Subway Series, but the Yankees got to get out of this Kansas City Royals series. And what scares me about this Kansas City Royals team is they have nothing to lose, and they're fundamentally, built to win. And again, if the Royals get out of this series, I think the Royals go all the way to the World Series. I think whoever comes out of this series is going to the World Series for the American League.
Well, on that note, let's talk. NHL rosters were finalized just this week. Today we have the first game of the NHL season, and let's talk about the Islanders and Rangers respectively. The Rangers, the defending Metro Division champions. I think that they have very similar issues to last year, which their issues were very minimal, extremely minimal. Their issue was one thing and one thing only, and that was playing 5-on-5. And I looked at this roster, and I think they really didn't do anything to fix that. Which coaching can fix that, but I look at it and I think I see they didn't try and fix that. They added a 35-year-old Riley Smith who's going to be playing top 6 minutes. Capo Caco is still a question mark. Filipino, you're relying too much on him to let me reword that. He has to play all 82 games. I feel like if he gets injured again, that is a big blow to their bottom 6 and their center depth. I think that depending on how he bounces back, this is his first time really playing. I wasn't too happy with how he played in the playoffs. I felt like he wasn't 100%. So we'll see how he does, but I think if Panarin doesn't have 120 points again, they won't win division. That's really the biggest thing for them. They need Panarin to have a monster year like last year. The Rangers are going to have a top 2 power play and top 5 penalty kill again. But I think those are really the only minimal things for them. It'll be them or the Devils who win the division. And I think that the Devils actually could be. I don't know. I think they're a trap team, and by that I mean I think that a lot of people have them as a favorite, and they could end up falling back and not being as good
because they have the goaltending now. They made the move in the off.
But Markstrom is 35. Markstrom is 35. So
yeah, it doesn't matter. He's a good goaltender. He's a competent goaltender. He's the best.
He had a pretty down year last
year.
He's
the best goaltender they've had since Martin Beaudoin.
No, Corey Schneider was.
Corey
Schneider was better than him.
I disagree. And Corey Schneider couldn't stay healthy. So, but again, I think that the Rangers have a very good chance this year. They have a lot of depth. I think they're good. They're very good offensively sound. They're good defensively sound. They have a bunch of good youngsters that we could see sometime this year be called up if there's injuries. So I love what I've seen with the Rangers. They've got a tremendous amount of talent, offensively and defensively, that I could say. This is a year that the Rangers have to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have to go to the Eastern Conference Finals or even go to the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, what they did last year was pretty fantastic. They really were one of the best teams in the league, and they went as far as they did because of the talent that they have around them. They cannot fall back from what they did last year with the talent that they have. They got to move forward. And now they got to look towards the only team they couldn't beat last year to get to the Stanley Cup Finals is the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup. Florida Panthers are not the same team as they were last year. They lost some pieces in the offseason. So the Rangers have a chance now to, jump them. So it's not good enough not to make the Eastern Conference Finals this year. They've got the talent and they've got the goaltending. And Shesterkin, the story's coming out that Shesterkin did not take the offer of 8 years, $88 million, which would have made him the highest paid goaltender in NHL history. He believes that he should get more. How does this benefit the New York Rangers if they do give him more and they do extend him to an 8-year?
I think that's something you now, was the cap going to be continually going up every year?
Yes, but here's the thing.
It makes it better, but the thing is, there's been one goalie in NHL history who had double-digit cap hit and won a Stanley Cup. One. And that's Bobrovsky, who just did it last year. Before that, no goalie with a $10 million plus cap hit has ever won a Stanley Cup.
And here's another thing that I would be scared about. Sorokin, who the Islanders gave $68 million, had an off season last year, but was one of the best goalies in the league for the last 2 years before that. He had an off season. Shesterkin, who, yes, he's been a great goaltender for the last 3 years.
Sorokin had back surgery over the season. Now we don't know when and we don't know what it was. It could have been something very minor.
Who's Shesterkin?
No, Sorokin.
Yeah, but I think Sorokin's going to be fine this year.
He will be. I think that's why he had it down here last year, is because I think his back was hurt, and I think it was one of those things that it couldn't get worse, and he was able to play through it. It's just that it affected his play, but I think that's why he had a bad year last year.
I think if you're a Ranger fan, you should be very excited for the season. This is a season that the Rangers could come out winning 50 some odd games. I think they can.
Well, the Metro Division got a lot harder this year. The Devils got a lot better. Capitals got better. The Islanders got better. I
don't like what the Islanders did with Anthony Duclair. I don't like what they did. I as a matter of fact, I think Lou Lamoriello is an old fart and he needs to retire.
I think that's completely wrong. But we'll get to them. I think that it's going to be a much harder division this year. Much better teams. It's going to be how the Atlantic Division was a few. Atlantic Division did it again. The Metro Division did it a few years ago.
Atlantic, they're the same freaking thing. But...
Well, it used to be the Atlantic. Every once in a while, I call it the Atlantic. But no, the Metro. It was.
It's Stanley Cup or bust for them. And I'm going to tell you this right now: if they don't make the Stanley Cup this year, Chris Drury is going to get fired. He's going to get fired. It's not. This team needs to win a Stanley Cup. It's been a long time since 1994. They've gone up every single year in position every single year in the playoffs. Now they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now they got to jump into the Stanley Cup. If they don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year, that's not good enough. I think ownership and James Dolan is going to fire him. And so this is a must-win year for the New York Rangers, and they should win. Their talent is there. They have a tremendous and talented team, and Zibanejad needs to show up in the playoffs, and so does Panarin. And if they do that, I think the Rangers could go all the way. I really do. As far as the Islanders are concerned, I know you like what they did in the offseason. I did not. I think they overpaid for Anthony Duclair. Nobody wants to play for the Islanders. That's the way I look at it right now. No superstar wants to come here and play for this team. And what bothers me right now, as far as I'm concerned for the New York Islanders, is where I see this team is going is the only option they have moving forward to get pieces back for that particular player is Barzal. I mean, at this point right now, if they start the season slow and Barzal is not doing the things that he's getting paid for, I really think that the Islanders need to look at possibly moving Barzal and getting some pieces back for him because they can't win with him. And Brock Nelson, what is this, his final year of his contract? They got to decide what they're doing with him, too.
Brock and Pajot, it's the final year of their contract.
Well,
next year is
Pajot. Good riddance for Pajot. I don't want him.
Well, Pajot started doing a lot better last year once they put Anders Lee on his line. He kind of had, at first, like up until they put Lee. He had a couple guys who probably on most teams would be on the fourth line on his line, and he was struggling. He was, but then once you put Anders Lee with him, that line looked much better. The line of Lee, Peugeot, and Engvall played really well, and they played together. Which they did waive Engvall this.
Thank God.
Honestly, I think it was for cap because that it was him or Wallstrom, and they said they didn't think Engvall could play the fourth line
Wallstrom's
role.
playing on the fourth line. He
is, yeah. They didn't. They said that Lou said they didn't think Engvall could play on that role that Wallstrom could play, so they weren't going to be able to keep both of them, and they obviously wanted Wallstrom on that spot, and I feel that's what caused them to waive Engvall.
Thank God, good riddance. Engvall sucks. I hated Engvall.
But I think the Islanders are going to be a very good team this year. I think the Wild is going to do a very good job.
We'll see.
The biggest question mark that's going to make the difference is the penalty kill. If that can have a pretty good improvement, I think they'll be fine. You know, they got younger. They got rid of Martin and Clutterbuck. That made them a lot faster in the bottom six. So I think that they're going to be a good team.
We can only hope, and I'm hoping that the Islanders do have a good season. I do not like Sleeping Lou as my GM. Hopefully, very soon, Sleeping Lou actually retires. I don't want to see him there anymore. I think it's time to bring in one of these younger guys, these smarter guys, these analytic guys that's going to help rebuild this team because they really don't have a future in their farm system. There's really nothing there that really sticks out. As an Islander fan, you know, over the years with Garth Snow, you say whatever you want about Garth Snow and what he's done with free agents. He knew how to draft. He drafted some really good players, and he built the team. The team that we have right now was built around Garth Snow and his draft picks. So, and I expect, Pellick to have a better year and Pulak to have a better year after the money that they just got in the last two seasons. So I want to see them actually get back to where they were, when, obviously they were a top duo. And are they starting the season together? I hope they are. I hope Law is going to put them back together again.
Pellick and Pulak, yeah, they are.
So that's good. And Dobson became one of the young stars on this team and in the league. I think he's only going to grow as a defensive player, and he's one of the best offensive defensive players in the league. So, I mean, there could be a good chance he wins the Norris this year. Who knows? So I'm excited to see what some of the youngsters that the Islanders have. I'm just not excited about some of the acquisitions. I am not a big Anthony Duclair.
Listen, Duclair's going to do very well on that line. That line looks very good together in preseason. I think that they're going to have all three of them are going to have very good years.
Okay. Anyways, we'll be back next week on Tuesday. It was a good show. We got into the Jets and the Saleh, debacle, and Bambi, he's gone. He's going to go hang out, in the woods, hang out with some of the birds and the bees and, the rabbits and skunks. And we got into, the Giants, the success of the Giants over the last couple of weeks and Daniel Jones. We got into the Mets and the Yankees. Both teams right now have a very good chance of winning their series. The Mets look like they're going to go up 2-1 against the Philadelphia Phillies, the favorites of winning the World Series this year. So a lot to get into. If you're a New York sports fan, you should be very excited. And look at the Knicks. I mean, preseason's going to start right around the corner. They have Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, they're going to be a fun team to watch this year. They could be a 60-win team this year as well. So it's going to be fun. It's great. Hockey, basketball, baseball, football, even the two New York teams, they could sneak into the playoffs, both of them. So New York sports is right there on the cusp of greatness. Hopefully we'll see consistency moving forward for the next couple of years. Anyways, Lyle, I'll see you next week, man.
Yep, and have a great night. Thank you for watching, everybody.